All right, guys, it's your boy Knicks Tape Banks. We're back at it again. This time we're talking about Mitchell Robinson and where he is and where he can be. But before we get into that, make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe. Bless up. Mitchell Robinson is mostly known as a defender, and that makes sense. When you got a guy who's 7 foot tall and can block shots like no one's ever seen, but at the same time can guard that three-point line, of course he's going to be labeled as a defender. He's also labeled as a rim runner, which makes sense. Again, he's a defensive force with a 9'2" standing reach. He's crazy athletic, and he scored mostly on dunks. As Knicks fans, a lot of us look to Mitchell Robinson as our point of light. This is our hope. But people argue we overhype Mitch. He's essentially reached his ceiling. He'll be nothing more than Montrezl Harrell. Well, let's look back at Mitch's high school career. Now, in high school, Mitch shot 137 threes in his senior year of high school, almost 4 threes a game. He only shot them at a 28% clip, but with that kind of volume, and we've heard Mike Miller say he's been working on it, that may really be a possibility for Mitch going on into future seasons. If we are talking about a Mitchell Robinson, the guy who can dunk on anyone, who can guard anywhere, and can hit threes, we're talking about some kind of player that we only see once in a while. We have some people, again, we've never seen it in game at a high level, so they don't believe that this is something that Mitchell Robinson can achieve. I'm here to tell you, even without shooting threes, he made 253 of his 341 field goal attempts this season. That is a beastly 74.2% from the field. That is the single season best field goal percentage of all time, beating a Wilt Chamberlain record, which was 72.7 for a season. We all know beating a Wilt Chamberlain record is like seeing Julius Randle pass the ball. It's not going to happen. But Mitch has made the impossible possible in his sophomore season. Some people will argue again, well, we only have seen him really dunk in game. And that's okay. They argue he has no skill. Well, Mitch has pretty good touch around the basket, but despite that, even if all Mitch can do on the offensive end is dunk, Mitch is amongst the greatest dunkers of all time in NBA history, at least statistically speaking. In the pick and roll, Mitch averaged 1.66 points per possession. 1.66 points per possession is a crazy number. I don't think it's something that is easily appreciated. So I'm going to put this in perspective for you guys. When we look at that 1.66 points per possession as a roll man, the closest anybody has gotten to that in the last 5 seasons with a minimum sample of 30 possessions is DeAndre Jordan in 2016-2017. He had about 1.52 points per possession. That 0.14 difference is much larger than what some of us may think it to be. Now, we know that DJ had one of the greatest point guards ever in Chris Paul. He had shooters around him. JJ Redick, again, one of the greatest shooters ever. Mitch has none of that. Mitch doesn't have a great point guard. Mitch doesn't have great shooters. This is just Mitch and his talent. Mitch was a better roll man than prime Amari in this last season. Mitch was a better roll man in this last season than prime Dwight Howard. The only player in the last 16 years to have a better season as a roll man was Tyson Chandler. And that was with Chris Paul in back-to-back seasons where Chris Paul was arguably the MVP of the league. That was Chris Paul in his prime. Okay, Mitch, as a roll man, is amongst the greatest threats, most efficient plays in recent league history. in the last 5 years. It generates more points per possession than LeBron slashing to the rim. It generates more points per possession than Curry catching and shooting. It generates even more points per possession than Giannis on a putback. Now, that's not to say that Mitch is of the same caliber of those guys, but nevertheless, he deserves recognition. This season is not an outlier. Including his rookie season as a role man, Mitch averages 1.56 points per possession. That's only on 1 to 2 possessions as a role man per game. So if he's only getting 1 to 2 possessions as a role man per game, we have to really evaluate those other, 8 points per game that he gets, the extra 6 points that he gets. He's not getting that off of easy dunks created from players around him. Mitch has spent pretty much almost all his other possessions at the dunker's spot, watching the other Knicks fumble and bumble on the court. And if we look at Mitch and his ambitions, we know Mitch has a great motivator behind him, his grandmother. Mitch was quoted back before his rookie season. She lives in Pensacola, Florida, and she was the one that raised me. I want to be able to move her away from there and have her come stay with me wherever I end up. That's what I think about every time I step on the court, and it keeps me grinding. All right, guys, make sure you run up those comments. Let me know what you think about Mitch, where you think his potential lies, and don't forget, like and subscribe. Peace.